Here in the great state of Texas, a lot of us often say that everything here is bigger. Now this applies to everything from how we eat, to what we eat, how we live, and most certainly our love affair with big pickup trucks. But you know, in such a vast expanse of land, you don't always need to have the biggest beast on the road in order to have a Texas-sized adventure. I mean, look at what's sitting next to me. She isn't the biggest truck on the road. She isn't even the most expensive one either. But to say something like this doesn't want to get down and dirty every once in a while, well, that is a Texas-sized understatement. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it is taco time. We are in the all-new 2024 Toyota Tacoma. And boy, has the company sent me the best one of them all. This is a Tacoma TRD Pro. I never get tired of driving these off-road beasts from Toyota Racing Development. I mean, I've driven the Sequoia, I've driven the Tundra, and it was only a matter of time before I got the chance to take the reins of the Tacoma. And the first thing that hit me when I started driving this truck was a real sense of deja vu. Not so much in the sense that I've driven one before, because this is the first time I've actually driven this new generation, but in the last time I was driving a Tacoma, I was driving a 2023 Trail Edition SR5, which is kind of a lower end, like semi-skim TRD model, we'll call it that. And at the very end of my test drive in it, I had contemplated the thought of what would happen if Toyota had made a hybrid version of the Tacoma, because the hybrid had just come out for the Tundra and it was also out in the Sequoia. So now that the Tacoma has been given the I-Force Max treatment, minus a couple of cylinders compared to the Tundra or the Sequoia, honestly, there is a hell of a lot going on in just this little mid-sized truck. To start with, the power is unreal. This thing dwarfs the old 3.5 liter V6 with a turbocharged inline 4-cylinder displacing not even 2.5 liters, combined with all of Toyota's Hybrid Max wizardry, and it cranks out 326 horsepower and a colossal 465 foot-pounds of torque. But if you're thinking that just this massive gain in horsepower and quite a bit better fuel efficiency in an off-road focused mid-size pickup is the main reason why you would spend almost $70,000 on one of these, you are missing the point entirely. I've always known the TRD Pro models, from this all the way to the Sequoia, to have not only some of the best off-road, but some of the best on-road manners you could think of. And earlier, before I even started driving this thing, I was throwing this thing around in some light sand and, some water and just really trying to see what it could do. And it handled it all with ease. But now that I'm out here on the highway, just cruising at 65 miles an hour, I don't even have to shout in here. It's pretty quiet. It's incredibly comfortable, but you feel the presence of this Goliath of a mid-sized truck. And I do mean a Goliath. I mean, this truck really is quite muscular in the way it presents itself. But from behind the wheel, it doesn't really feel as big and brawny as you might expect. I mean, yeah, once you kind of show it some corners and stuff like that, it does lean a little bit, but the Fox Racing and TRD suspension underneath has been a staple in this thing from the moment the TRD Pro lineup first came out. And these brand new QS3 shocks with their multi-chambered reservoirs and all that other good stuff, it's just soaking up every single bump and undulation along this concrete highway here. But what's even better than that is that this is a TRD Pro, like I was saying. It's built to literally tackle everything. So, in regards to the powertrain, aside from the engine being a 2.4 liter turbo, like I was saying, with an 8-speed transmission, and this having the 4W-man part-time 4-wheel drive, this also has a 2-speed electronic transfer case. I can disconnect the rear sway bar at the touch of a button. I can lock the rear differential. So this truck has that off-road focus and that pedigree. So it does mean that even though the Tundra and the Sequoia might be the real brutes and the Goliaths of the TRD Pro family, doesn't mean that the Tacoma is lacking anything necessarily either. And yet the even funnier part is, with all this power and torque, you would think that it would take a will of iron not to put your foot down a little bit harder. But in the event you find yourself in such a mood, there is the drive mode selector, which is in the middle of this chunky 4-way switch that can control your tow haul mode, multi-terrain select, your crawl mode, and of course your on-road driving manners. Now you can tootle along in eco mode like I am right now, trying to get close to that 20 to 24 mile per gallon mark, or you can just simply turn it all the way up, put it in sport mode, kind of take in a little bit of that synthesized sound combined with the TRD exhaust that we have on this one, which doesn't actually sound bad, by the way. And then all you have to do is let her eat just a little bit, and you're in for quite the surprise. Oof! Whew. It sounds like a V8, but it's a little turbocharged 4-cylinder. Got to do something about this whole synthesized sound thing, because I don't really want to be fooled that I'm driving a V8 pickup. I know what's up there, but yet you bury it. Yeah, no, they need to do something a little bit better with that. But I think the most surprising thing about this Tacoma in general, this specific version, is just how easy it is to drive. You know, like I was talking about a minute ago, you'd feel like you're bumbling all over the road and it's going to lean to one side every time you take a corner. But once you just kind of slow it down and just start driving it, gradually, the handling is actually quite impressive for a mid-sized truck. The rebound isn't terrible. It's a lot more impressive than I ever have felt in any other, small to mid-sized truck like this. It really does feel like Toyota has finally cracked it. They have finally made a mid-size pickup that doesn't drive like a boulder on wheels. Of course, anybody can go out and buy a regular pickup and turn it into an off-road ready beast. But to have something like this coming fresh out of the factory box, I mean, this is one of the most solid put together TRD Pro packages that I've seen out of all of them that I've driven. And even though it's only a mid-sized truck, the details are just everywhere. Starting with the gloss black accents. First off, on the Heritage grille, so no more Toyota logo. Instead, you have the company's name spelled out across your truck's nose. You then get down to the lower grille, where not only do you have some of this sort of rugged off-road ready plastic, but you actually look a little further underneath, and there is a TRD skid plate under here. So it isn't just all about the looks, on the nose of things. There is quite some protection going on underneath this truck as well. But the craziest part is just how much lighting you have on the face of this truck. You start with your blacked out LED headlights, LED high beams, low beams, auto high beam assist, and the sequential LED turn signals, all included as standard. But if you think that's nuts enough, look in the bottom grille, you have standard Rigid Industries LED fog lights. Now these are standard on the TRD Pro, and they can only be activated under low lighting conditions. Flick on the high beams, however, and in the middle of the grille, you can activate your TRD light bar. Now, as much as I wish you could activate all of these together, Toyota did think ahead on that as well. So if you look inside the cab, there are a few little auxiliary switches that can then be wired into other forms of external lighting should all of this that you just saw not be enough. Now, you are going to take some city streets and highways, either driving around normally or getting to your next adventure. So Toyota thought ahead of that as well. So they have included their full safety suite as standard on the majority of Tacoma models. So on this one, we have dynamic radar cruise control, front and rear park assist, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, lane keep assist, forward collision warning, you name it, everything is here. And again, for almost $70,000 on even a mid-size pickup, that's kind of all to be expected here. And it isn't even the fact that the TRD Pro sits an inch higher than its standard brethren thanks to its suspension combo that can make things a little more impressive. It's the fact that depending on how it's spec'd, this truck can actually get quite large, even though it's only classified as a mid-size pickup. On the shorter end of the scale with things like a regular cab and the shorter 5-foot bed like what I have on this one, this truck can be about 213 inches long. However, spec it out with like the double cab, like what I have here again, paired with the optional 6-foot bed, and that jumps to 227 inches. So even though again it's only a mid-sizer, like I said, she can grow, quite considerably depending on how equipped. But like some of us, we do like things to be a bit bigger in certain places. So you look in the corner of this one and we have the standard set of matte black TRD 18-inch alloy wheels. And I love how they look, but I love them even more when they're wrapped in these 265/70 series Goodyear Wrangler tires. Now, as much as I want to keep singing praises about the way this thing looks, unfortunately, there are a couple of very minute little details that have kind of put me off a little bit, but I really think it's more of a petty thing in my case, because you start up there on the hood and you've got what looks like a functional hood scoop, but if you look at it from the backside, there's no functional heat extractors to let the air or the hot air out of that turbocharged hybrid powertrain, let alone you lift up the hood and there's no actual entrance for that hood scoop to go straight down into the engine. So whether it works or not, I'm not exactly quite sure. It looks cool, but as far as functionality, kind of questionable. Same thing with the styling elements right there under the headlights. Now, it has a cool factor, but it has no cooling purpose. They are completely closed off, and again, they're just there for show. But also speaking of showing off, with the ice cap exterior that I have on this truck, it really is turning into that sort of stormtrooper theme, because you've got blacked out fender flares, you've got blacked out mirrors, and in this case, we also have the optional black roof, which I absolutely love in this case, just breaking up the sort of monotony of the white. And I think they've put the gloss black in just the right places to really make this truck eye-catching from every angle. But what isn't a bit of a peace of mind and just something I expect is Toyota's advanced keyless access. But what's still depressing to me is that the key fob is just as dated as you can imagine, but it does everything you need. Lock, unlock, tailgate, panic, and it has the releasable key blade that comes out of the bottom of it. And going back to this truck's gloss black door handles, you grab the handle as normal, she unlocks for you, and then to lock it, just lay your finger to the front of the handle. And before we even go anywhere near the additional styling elements on the back of this truck, it's time to talk about the most pertinent thing when it comes to really any pickup truck, which is how capable is this thing, even though this particular one's equipped like an off-road juggernaut. Well, I'm happy to say just inside of this 5-foot bed, you can haul a max payload of 1,680 pounds. Sounds reasonable enough, especially again considering its size, but it gets even better. With this standard ARB steel bumper and this standard tow hitch back here, the Tacoma TRD Pro will tow up to 6,500 pounds. That's basically like hooking a full-size Tundra to the back of this thing and having this little truck be able to haul it with ease. But it gets even better because inside of this bed, there is a 120 volt, 2400 watt alternating current plug over here on the passenger side. And then over here on the driver's side, there's not only a little bit of extra storage, but I have things like another USB-C for charging my devices back here. This is a real party truck, isn't it? You'd think, wouldn't you? But also back here on the tailgate. Okay, first off, the taillights look exactly like those on a Tundra. They have the same LED lighting, same sequential turn signals, and even the tailgate sort of resembles its bigger brother with the TRD Pro name stamped out across the middle. But the goodies, you know, you'll look close enough and they really are there. I love the red tow hooks back here. Very nice little kind of pop of color to catch your eye as you come around the back. But my favorite part is not the extra little bit of black up here on the top of the tailgate. It's the tailgate itself. Because unlike most small trucks, you would think you'd pull the latch and kind of have to guide it down a little bit so it doesn't take your kneecaps out. But this thing is powered both taking it down and putting it back up. Now, I think most of us would agree that the main reason you'd spend as much money on one of these TRD Pro trucks or SUVs as they cost is because they have that off-road credibility, the presence, the performance, and so on. But my reason for loving these so much, whether taking it out off-road or just driving it every day, is that they give you as many creature comforts as you need for the off-road side of things as much as they do for the on-road. And in the Tacoma's case, it all starts with these all-new isodynamic seats. Definitely one of the weirdest seating configurations I've ever seen because they have power adjustments on the side, at least for the distance, even though the recline part of it is manually adjustable. But you look on the back of these front seats here, and there are these two gas struts going straight up, which can be adjusted in as infinite number of ways as one could think of. So that was a bit of a strange one, but yet they are heated and they are cooled. And also, have you ever seen a more beautiful interior color than the cockpit red and black two-tone job we've got going on in here? I love it, especially with the white and black on the outside. It really is that essential Toyota color combo. But the one thing I've also noticed after spending some time with the Tacoma is that you look around this interior and you're seeing a bit of tundra, a bit of sequoia. You really don't see anything that's too terribly unique going on in here. In fact, the only thing I can think that's really unique about this truck, if at all, is down by my left knee with those 3 auxiliary buttons that I was mentioning before if you want to hook up like some extra exterior lighting or whatever. But if I look directly in front of me, I've got a perforated leather wrap steering wheel that is standard heated. I've got all the same buttons as both the Tundra and the Sequoia as well, from Bluetooth, multimedia interface, all my gauge cluster adjustments, and the full Toyota Safety Sense suite, which, speaking of that gauge cluster, it too is the same foot-wide thin film transistor gauge cluster that we've seen in, again, all the vehicles I just mentioned. Not to mention, you look up top, and now you've got a giant heads-up display at the same time. So all of this is making me feel like, okay, is it a Tacoma? Is it a Tundra? Is it a Sequoia? I mean, I'm not really sure. And the other thing that drives that home is what's in the center console here, because I have a 14-inch infotainment display with Toyota's latest Highlights infotainment system. Now, yes, all the on-road stuff and all the tech goodies are there. You literally have wireless Android Auto, wireless CarPlay, cloud-based navigation. I mean, you name it, it's in there. Even more so, you have the 360 camera, which is standard on the TRD Pro. And that's not the only camera system that I have in this truck. Because not only do I have a digital rear view mirror, which just operates by one flick of the auto dimming switch, and it does exactly what it says, for an extra $500, this particular one has been fitted with a dash camera, and it makes the most annoying noise you will ever think of when you start this truck up. So if I turn the power on, obviously if I want to activate the rear view mirror, like I said, just flick the trigger and it powers right up. But after a few seconds, this thing starts going crazy. And speaking of that media system, this is another little party truck sort of kind of vibe thing going on in here. I have a 9-speaker JBL audio system as standard on the TRD Pro. And that sounds like plenty. There's not really much air to move around in here. But if you want to take that same sort of party feeling with you, let alone the sound quality at the same time, reach up here on top of the dash, press a little button, and suddenly you have a portable JBL speaker that pops right out of the dashboard that you can take anywhere. And once you just plug it back in, not only does it become part of the truck's sound system, but it also charges the speaker to make sure that you're ready to go at any time. Now, would I say this is the worst sound system I've ever heard? By far and away, No. And just when you think Toyota was done giving this truck more essences of its bigger brethren, you look down below and the first thing you notice is that the dual zone climate control system in here does have a bit more of a unique face to it. I love the readouts for the temperature controls. I love the backlit LCD screen in the middle. All the buttons are either physical or you have these little piano key style like triggers down below. Very much kind of reminiscent of the Tundra and the Sequoia as well. But again, I do like that they've given it, you know, the silver touch to those little piano key like buttons. You also have a Qi wireless charger stacked vertically, of course. Always love how they've done that. Then of course you get to the center console, which the first thing I notice is the little grip handle over here towards the passenger side, which also doubles as a nice little storage area. You can put like your phone or maybe a map or something small down in here. But then once you get over towards yourself, you have things like the selector that is kind of a 2-in-1. You have your 4-wheel drive controls and the different selectors for things like towing mode, crawl mode, multi-terrain select, and your on-road drive modes. And then once you look at the little buttons in the middle, just in front of the cup holders, a couple of them are pretty obvious, you know, towing mode, camera modes, we get all of that. But you also have that electronic locking rear diff and the electronic disconnectable sway bar as well that can be activated just at the touch of a button. Apart from that, however, from where I'm sitting, all I see is a couple of cup holders that are big enough for a can of soda, but definitely not big enough for, say, a sizable water bottle. That was a bit of a letdown. I would have expected something to have a little bit more space. Same thing with the center console here. You'll flip it up and there's about as much room as you would need for, say, maybe some keys, some maps, wallet. I mean, that's really all you need, isn't it? Now at this point, I'm sure you guys are expecting me to show you all of the stuff that you would get in the rear seats of this double cab pickup truck. But unfortunately, you can see with the driver's seat in its optimum driving position for me at around 6 feet tall, there is no way that I could wedge someone of around the same size in the back seats here. I wouldn't even want to risk it for a child if I had one. I mean, if you guys like to see some mutilation here, I can at least try, but I mean, that's about as comfortable as I'm going to get. My knees are, my knees are off to the side. I'm wedged up against the gas shocks here. And the only other thing I could see if I was comfortable back here is 2 USB-Cs at the back of the center console, along with another 2400 watt, 120 volt power outlet, should at least all the electronic outlets in the front not do this truck enough justice. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, this now concludes our review and drive of the all-new 2024 Toyota Tacoma TRD Pro. And I gotta say, it's definitely been quite some time since I've had the chance to get affiliated with a new version of the Taco. And what a way for me to finally get my chance. But I gotta admit, this truck isn't completely perfect. Obviously, we saw things like the rear seat space is absolutely atrocious. Yes, it is quite pricey, but then again, so are all of the other TRD Pro models. And honestly, I think once Toyota finally cracks this Hybrid Max powertrain and unleashes its full potential, I think this thing could really be the ultimate Toyota off-road machine, especially considering also that this mid-size Tacoma is facing some seriously stiff competition from, say, American companies who've had their fill of the off-road game as much as Toyota has. But in any event, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video today, and if you have, please give this video a thumbs up, and also while you're at it, hit the subscribe button down below, because trust me, as much as I've enjoyed having partnerships with Toyota lasting as long as it has, I've enjoyed sharing these experiences with you even more. So if you guys are planning to stick around, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care, everybody, and stay safe.